Dark Ranger is back! You can now do this! And this, and of course this. With the anniversary patch, a lot of cool things are coming to Beast Mastery, with Dark Ranger finally looking cool, playing good, and doing justice to the fantasy. On top of changed talents and Dark Ranger being fully reworked, there are also buffs coming to Beast Mastery. Those are a bit relative, since tweaks will still happen by the time you get to play with all of these changes, so I won't be mentioning any numbers in particular here, because there's a chance they will change. With that out of the way, let's talk about the 2 talent changes in the class tree. The least impactful is Moment of Opportunity, which now buffs you with 30% movement speed when a trap triggers, as opposed to proccing Aspect of the Cheetah for a few seconds. The actual impactful change is improved Kill Shot being replaced with Death Blow, normally a marksmanship talent. For Beast Mastery, this will make Kill Command have a 10% chance to reset your kill shot and make it usable on any target regardless of their HP level. This is very important because of the new Dark Ranger talent, and speaking of, Black Arrow is now a real World of Warcraft ability. It will replace Kill Shot and do slightly less damage. For now. Again, damage is whatever, since it can always change. What's important is that it will have an execute value on top of the other changes Dark Ranger comes with. First of all, as opposed to the old version, which had a 30-second cooldown, this one has at most 10 seconds, and with Death Blow-like effects, which there are more of, you'll cast it way more often, probably more than once every 10 seconds, depending on the RNG. I will go over all of the talents that have changed, which are basically all except for one, Dark Chains, which remained the same. First of all, the bell tolls on the right side makes Black Arrow usable on targets above 80% health as well, meaning that your kill shot execute, now Black Arrow transformed, will be used at the beginning of the fight. Execute style mechanics have had this tech before with Condemn for Warriors, so it's not necessarily new, but it does elevate the functionality of Black Arrow together with the rest of the talent tree. I mentioned Dark Chains stayed the same, but it will be as a choice node with Shadow Dagger. We will have some animations for some of the spells, by the way, which you can see right now. Shadow Dagger is the PvE version of the effect, where disengaging does a tiny bit of damage and applies a 30% slow to the target's hit, lasting 6 seconds. The ability is very thematic. The slow is nice, and not having to use a trap for it is even nicer. Next up is Bleak Powder. When you use Black Arrow with Beast Cleave active, the enemies around your target will explode with shadow damage taken. This is a tuning knob. Right now it's the biggest source of AoE damage you have, which is crazy if you think about it, so it's likely going to get nerfed. Or maybe it won't. Maybe Dark Ranger Beastmaster Hunters will not show Beast Cleave or Kill Cleave as the highest source of damage output, but Bleak Powder, since you are in fact a Dark Ranger now. But that could also be because Beastmaster Hunter AoE is tuned very low at this time, and even on the PTR with the limited content we have done, it feels a little bit lacking. But numbers will change, and we will change to the left side of the talent tree to Bleak Arrows. Auto shots deal shadow damage and have a 15% chance to give you Death Blow. This is normally a really big buff. Auto shots don't normally do a lot of damage, but them being shadow now will mean that they will bypass armor. The kicker, of course, is the Death Blow trigger, which in turn means firing more Black Arrows. Next up is a choice node with Ebon Bowstring. Casting Black Arrow has a 15% chance to trigger Death Blow, a similar effect now tied to the ability itself, having a chance to reset its own cooldown, while the counter option is Phantom Pain. When Kill Command damages a target affected by Black Arrow, 8% of the damage is replicated on the other Black Arrow targets, and there will be more targets with Black Arrow, by the way, so stay tuned until we get to the Spec talents. Phantom Pain is the clear AoE choice, with Ebon Bowstring seemingly being the single target option. And I say seemingly because Black Arrow already has functionalities in AoE by the sheer action of you using it. So really? Both are AoE talents, with only Ebon Bowstring having a single target bonus. It of course comes down to tuning in the end. Banshee's Mark makes Murder of Crows deal shadow damage, with Black Arrow's initial damage having a 25% chance to proc a Murder of Crows on your target. I already mentioned the benefits of converting physical damage to magical, shadow in this case, and yes, it does seem like this will kind of force you into the Murder of Crow talent in the Spec tree. Kind of. You are already using it on live, so chances are it will still be good, and it will definitely make Banshee's Mark better if you take it. But the Spec tree received some changes as well, which could make you not talent into Murder of Crows. The benefit of this design to Banshee's Mark is that you don't need to talent into Murder of Crows, since this procs it on its own anyway. But the shadow damage change will likely apply to your regular murders as well. Dude, saying it so many times make it feel so weird. I digress. The middle part of the tree still has Shadow Hounds, but now on top of proccing from Black Arrow's damage, it can also proc from Dire Beast. This is again an incentive to use Dire Beast, but the same argument applies as it did for Banshee's Mark. The alternative is Soul Drinker. When an enemy with Black Arrow on them dies, it has a 10% chance to trigger Death Blow, and here is where my dumbass brain has questions. First of all, the effect is nice to offset some of the damage lost from enemies dying before Black Arrow deals its damage. It has a positive effect if you have multiple Black Arrows out, one target dies with it, and you can shoot it again and spread it some more, although the 10% proc chance might be a little bit too low for this to ever matter. Anyway, this is likely a high fortified key situation where you will be in combat with a pack for a while, or tanks chain pull mobs in dungeons. Also, raid adds dying with this on can give you more Black Arrows for the boss. Looking at you, Ovinax. But with all of these Death Blow procs adding up, what are the chances of you munching your own procs? If you play perfectly, realistically, you cannot munch your procs. Maybe. If you cast Black Arrow the second it becomes available, you'll likely never overlap procs unless your auto shot goes off at the same time it procs a Death Blow, and Black Arrow procs one itself as well from Ebon Bowstring in the same global window. I mean, God, if we have to use swing timers for ranged weapons to track potential procs of Black Arrow, BM will immediately turn into one of the most difficult specs to optimize, not to mention that nobody plays perfectly. In AoE, if Beast Cleave drops and you were about to multi-shot, but Black Arrow becomes available, you will still want to multi-shot for Bleak Powder, risking to get that Soul Drinker proc even more. This is very nitpicky by the way, but it is a layer of complexity that could exist, unless I am wrong. But it could be solved if Death Blow procs could stack, or Black Arrow procs stack as well. That sounds strong, but also really cool gameplay. It will do what stacking procs do in the game already and give you more power and more control over your damage output. It will also incentivize tap targeting gameplay even more, which realistically, it already exists with BM, since you already want to spread barb shots in AoE, and you'll definitely want to spread Black Arrows as well. All I'm saying is that BM Hunter might not be a meme brain dead spec anymore, at least for Dark Ranger. Actually, I was wrong. There are more talents that haven't changed. We still have Embrace the Shadow, where you heal for 15% of the shadow damage you or your pets do. You do way more shadow damage now than on live, so it could be POG, but this might be a bug at the moment since details tells me my Dark Hounds are doing physical damage when they're supposed to be doing shadow. Maybe that's a details bug. Either way, this talent is still likely dead since Smokescreen is just peak design when it comes to defensives. Exhilaration giving you 3 seconds of survival of the fittest is mad good. 3 seconds of 30% damage reduction on top of a fat heal is amazing when soaking a hit. Taking 2 heavy dot ticks of something, being an explosive or any other similar mechanics. Survival of the Fittest giving you an exhilaration proc at half the heal is okay as well. Shadow Surge retained its name but changed its effect. Now periodic damage from Black Arrow will trigger AoE damage. The damage is nice. The proc chance seems a bit low, but compared to my damage profile, this is the kind of damage I would expect to get from a talent point. But once again, it's put against a pretty low tuned spec, so who knows how good it will end up being when it comes to live. And lastly, saving the best for dessert, Withering Fire changed drastically. It will now proc after every 4th Bestial Wrath usage and buff you for 12 seconds. During those 12 seconds, if you would proc a death blow effect, your character immediately fires Black Arrow at your target and 2 more adjacent enemies for half that damage. This will spread the Black Arrow effect, which is already nice damage to have, but also activate all the other Black Arrow talents on multiple targets. The fantasy of this is what we fucking wanted from Dark Ranger from the beginning. A bit late, but better late than never, I guess. There are some concerns with this, of course. First of all, if you are looking at the gameplay footage trying to see its peak pogginess animations, you won't. It doesn't seem to proc for me on Beast Mastery. I stood for a long time on training dummies and in some dungeons and couldn't get Death Blow to proc during this window period. And if it did, I probably missed it. That's fine. That's going to get fixed if it is a bug. The real problem is how it procs. Every 4th Bestial Wrath is a weird way to design DPS windows for World of Warcraft. Tarlo from the Hunter community made a juicy forum post talking about it, which you can check from the link below, but long story short, as with all DPS cooldowns and windows in WoW, you want to stack this with other DPS cooldowns, particularly Call of the Wild. Well, first of all, you won't have this at the beginning of a fight when you likely use your potions and bloodlust, so that already feels like ass. But also it's likely you will have to hold off on using Call of the Wild to align it with Withering Fire for peak burst damage, and it's not intuitive for a lot of players. Definitely not for BM players that are used to just pressing things when they're available, lol. This is kind of minor for the average player, but likely a big thing for the min-maxer. But this is not all. A few spec talents changed, with one in particular that changes the game for Dark Ranger. I am talking about Hunter's Prey, of course, where now it will make a kill shot hit another target and deal 10% increased damage for each of your active pets. This will always buff Black Arrow by at least 20% and more depending on your dire beasts, dark hounds, etc. And it will also hit 2 targets, spreading the effect. Add this to Withering Fire, and if they get these to work properly, you will essentially be a legit mini Sylvanas shooting arrows all over the place, just like in Heroes of the Storm. A game we used to make content for, by the way. Although I said I won't mention numbers, Pack Tactics has indeed been buffed to 125% focus generation, and I am guessing it's because they removed Kindred Spirits, a boring 2-talent node that just gave you a bigger focus pool. Probably not, but still, you get more focus generation now. Cobra Senses has been reworked to now be a 5 focus cheaper buff and increase the damage of Cobra Shot by 35% baseline. This and the talents that follow are stuff I'm excited about, and I will tell you why. First of all, these are Cobra Shot talents, of course, only really valuable in raids. I couldn't really test them on PTR in dungeons. It's hard to grasp their damage potential in AoE since they are single target damage talents, mostly. The choice node it's shared with is Snakeskin Quiver, another new talent that gives your auto shot a 15% chance to fire a Cobra Shot. This presumably has synergies with all the other Cobra Shot functions, like Kill Command cooldown reduction or Barb Shot cooldown reduction from Barbed Scales, by the way, another new talent. This might need to be kept under supervision since more Barb Shots means more Bestial Wraths, and more Bestial Wraths means more Withering Fire windows, on top of just more damage, of course. And to actually put the cherry on top of Cobra Shot cakes, and why I love these changes, by the way, it's secondly Serpentine Rhythm. Casting Cobra Shot gives you a stacking buff that makes it deal 25% more damage. It can stack, and upon reaching max stacks, it transforms into another buff that makes your pet do 8% more damage for 8 seconds. Did I say pet? I meant pets. The tooltip is kind of messed up right now, if you are reading it on your screen, where it says it can stack 6 times, but the buff changes at 4 stacks, so it's one or the other really. 4 stacks means more uptime on pet damage buff, 6 stacks means more single target damage from your Cobras. Right now on PTR it seems to be just 4 stacks. The reason I like these types of changes and think they're really good for the game is because they take an almost dead ability with no interesting mechanics to it and add depth to it, add synergy with other aspects of your kit. Now it doesn't always happen that way. way, but I would rather have options to make stuff and boring spells more interesting than have them removed or just be bloat. As for whether or not these talents will be used, will come down to tuning. We lost a lot of 2-pointer nodes, so essentially we do have more points to spend on stuff. But the tree for Beast Mastery still feels super heavy on the middle side, with a lot of talents that will never see play. Hope the tuning doesn't stop here and we can end up with a world of Cobra shots which feel cool to press. Side note, although not really a numbers tuning, Frenzy from Barb Shot and Thrill of the Hunt durations have been extended to 12 seconds. Maintaining these should be easier at first glance, by the way, but also could make talents like Barbed Scales and Scent of Blood not as mandatory anymore, which Scent of Blood already isn't. Improved Kill Command and Kindred Spirits have been removed, with the 2-pointer Kindred Spirits being replaced by the 1-pointer Serpentine Rhythm, and Training Expert also becoming a 1-pointer, a talent you are already using on live. So more points to spend once again. Overall, the changes to Beast Mastery and Dark Ranger specifically are incredible and very much welcome. This is the kind of stuff that brings a lot of hope to designs in the game that are subpar to their counterparts. As far as we are concerned, Dark Ranger was one, if not the biggest loser in terms of design for hero talents. And it was ironic since they prefaced the whole system giving this as an example back at BlizzCon. It is a little bit late for sure, but things are never perfect, and it's good to know that if something is not quite right, we as players can expect it to be addressed and made awesome eventually. Which is what happened to Paladins, since Paladins needed the love as well. We covered the entire 1105 Paladin changes in this video, which you can check by clicking on the thing with your mouse. Okay, bye!